Do this.
All right, everyone, we are live and welcome back to our weekly show. We
Yes, yes,
are
yes.
back to midweeks like we were when we first started. To fit work schedules and whatnot. So you'll have to bear with us. But we are here tonight with our co host and our familiars, Cody, Nick, and my lovely wife, Lindsay, are all here with me. And
Hello, all those dozens of people out there in the internet.
yes,
Yes, and if you're watching or
yeah,
you're seeing the titles, we teased a different double feature last week, but our guest was not feeling well, so we had to reschedule. So we shuffled. This was a double feature I wanted to do this year, anyways, so I'm glad you guys decided to do this one. But we shuffled the movies around for accommodations for our guest.
right,
Yes.
right.
Actually, these are several. Both of these are movies I wanted to discuss for quite some time now.
And considered, I'm going to go ahead and call them claymate classics because
Well,
that's
yes, they're
uh,
both stop motion
Yeah.
animation classics,
I
and
said I said claymate. I'm sorry. That's they
yeah.
all. It looks similar to me, but yes, stop motion. I want to
But
say
Yeah.
the reason I wanted to do this is because both these movies appear on lists of like movies to watch for Halloween, but also Henry Selick, the person who directed both of these films, who I consider an underrated director, maybe because he's only done mostly animated films. I would
Mostly stop motion films.
Yeah, even Monkey Bone, which is mostly live action, I believe the animation in it is stop motion.
Yeah.
He's got a new movie coming out paired with the Jordan Peele that's going to debut on Netflix on Halloween weekend, Wendell and Wild. So,
Okay. I have to look this one up. I've never heard of it.
you should. Yeah, it looks amazing. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
and it's PG-13, so I guess it's going to be his darkest movie too.
Well, considering how dark Coraline was, yeah, uh, yeah, that's kind of saying
And,
something.
and speaking of Coraline, we are 2 minutes and 40 seconds in, and we have failed to mention which two movies we're watching. But one of them
Okay,
is Coraline,
Well,
and the other is the '93 classic Nightmare Before Christmas.
yes.
So the
So, yeah, I got a couple of stories to tell about Night Before Christmas.
oh my okay, I'll
Yeah,
get this out of the way, and then I'll be done. I will listen to stories and whatnot. But '93, I was 10, going on 11. My mom dabbled briefly in the little satanic panic that was going on
Your mom dabbled
in the early '90s there, and
oh, this was like this is like well into the 80s. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say Satanic Panic had been a uprising since the 80s, maybe even the late 70s, but it
oh
definitely
yeah.
was huge by the Reagan administration.
Well,
yeah,
D&D was a no-no, of course, because of the story about
How dare they teach
the,
you
the
math?
people who burned their D&D set and the demons showed up in the flames. There's that classic story. But
I think Satanic
the,
Panic is an ongoing
it
issue.
it is, but we
Before the
it
70s and 80s.
but it happened, and
But it's a
and
cool rhyming name
and,
now.
and my mom, I love you, Mama, but she caught that bug for about I want to say 6 months, maybe a year, because there was like we weren't like I had to sneak around and watch Ninja Turtles. I couldn't play Mortal Kombat,
I think it went a little further, because didn't you tell me something about like the Harry Potter books? So when the movies came out, you're like, we're going to see them.
Oh yeah, she was like, oh, I don't think you should watch that. And I was like, no. Tell you what, I got my license now. I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna go watch it, whether you like it or not.
What a flex.
But and that I think that after that she eased up. She was like, okay, well yeah, it's not gonna work, whatever. But anyway, I just thought it was funny that I was not allowed to watch it in
yeah.
theaters, and we didn't rent it for the longest time. Like I had to, I think I watched it at a friend's house, and then she eased up, and it became like a Halloween staple.
I had the opposite situation because growing up, we had Nightmare Before Christmas on like the official VHS with a clamshell, not just like recorded from television. And now we're religious.
Yeah, same. I didn't get to see it in theaters. I think I saw it on cable for the first time. But me being already obsessed with Tim Burton even before I knew what movie directors were, because it's the guy who did Pee-wee's Big Adventure and
Right.
Beetlejuice and Batman. Like, those three movies were like cornerstones of my childhood. So, of course, I wanted to watch this and I loved it. And I probably didn't even need to watch this movie again, but I was able to watch it yesterday morning before work because, it's not a long movie, but like, I know this movie probably backwards and forwards and even all the musical songs and everything because I got obsessed with the soundtrack too, especially around the time they were doing the big re-releases in the mid 2000s.
Well, yeah, the soundtrack slaps because Danny Elfman had a part in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he was the voice of Jack Skellington, so you know his. I have yet to listen to a Danny Elfman score that I didn't like.
Right.
Right.
I was able to catch the re-release in 3D, like when it happened, and
Yeah, and they did it for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I remember catching it the first year that they did Up in Tyler, and I'm glad I did because it's an experience, and the 3D actually converted really well.
Before we even chose this movie for a subject to podcast about, I was sat down by our youngest with Disney Plus, and she's like, "You're gonna watch this because it's October."
Oh, lovely!
And like all the remastered Disney Plus gorgeousness, and I'm so glad because it's so beautiful. And you mentioned Danny Elfman being the voice of Jack Skellington. I know people joke about certain Disney movies being like their awakening of sorts as a kid. I feel like Jack Skellington was like a romantic awakening for me.
Oh, he's your Robin Hood.
He is a Robin Hood. I don't know what it is about Danny Elfman's voice. It's just like comforting, and even though he's obviously not listening to anybody for most of the film, as Jack Skellington, he's amazing.
What's strange about that, because the soundtrack is all him, he does all the singing, but they wouldn't let him do the voice for just the talking parts. And that's Chris Sarandon, which is messed up. And Tim Burton didn't even have the gall to tell Danny himself that's what the studio wanted. He made Caroline Thompson, who was the screenwriter, who took there was another writer, because it says based on an idea by Tim Burton, then it has a writer who adapted it, and then it says screenplay. Oh, I think she also wrote the screenplay for Edward Scissorhands. And he made her, because she was dating Danny Elfman at the time, tell him that they were going to do another actor for the speaking parts. And that's probably why Danny Elfman didn't do the score for Ed Wood, the Burton film he did after Batman Returns, because this movie was in between those two, and which is why Henry Selick ended up directing this movie, was because Tim Burton couldn't direct it.
Yeah, I think, he was also, time for my story. I asked a girl in 8th grade, this movie came out when I was in 8th grade, and I asked a girl out to go see this movie. The date ended up falling through, and I never really saw the movie, and I just never really thought of it throughout the years. But Chris, I don't know if do you remember Carla?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yes, real skinny girl who used to come by the shop.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I told her I never saw Nightmare Before Christmas. She grabs me, puts me in her car, drives me to her house in Rusk. It sits me in her bedroom and makes me watch it. And I ended up staying the night with her because she didn't want to drive back to Nacogdoches. But that was how I ended up watching Nightmare Before Christmas.
That is the
That's-
most kidnapping I've ever heard
Yeah.
of.
Yeah,
Especially considering where you were taken, Nick. Russ,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
neighbors off.
Man, yeah.
Goodness gracious.
I've gotten in the car with people before, and it's never ended up back at somebody's house watching Nightmare
Anything
Before
pleasant.
Christmas. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the kind of devotion this movie has, and that's why when you go into any hot topic, it's pretty much the Nightmare Before Christmas store.
Nightmare Before Christmas, Beetlejuice, and basically any emo band from the last 20 years.
My Chemical Romance.
Hey,
Ugh.
you know, that is such a sweet story. It sounds awful and like without context, I guess. But my first Halloween in Rust, I was moved like 6 weeks into my 9th grade year to Rusk, and I hated everything about the town before I even came to it because of the circumstances. And my first Halloween, there were like 4 girls in my class that were like, "You're gonna come to our house and you're gonna watch scary movies with us for Halloween." And again, it could have been a way worse situation considering where I ended up, but that's so funny. And she was like, "You have to see it right now. I'm driving you this many miles to watch it."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, this was back when I lived in Nacogdoches, so it was,
That's still a drive. That's still a drive.
That's a good drive.
We live
Yeah,
close
but-
to Nacogdoches now, and we're still like, "Oh, we got to go all the way to Nac."
But
which is also funny because we lost contact now, but she's married and has a kid. But I will not. That was one of the many things about her that I will not forget.
She's I know the Carla you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's kind of funny that this movie gets made under Disney because I don't know if you guys know this, but Tim Burton went to Cal Arts, the Disney animated school,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and he worked for Disney. Of course, you can see him in the great documentary Waking Sleeping Beauty about the Disney Renaissance, and he just looks like the sad, lonely kid who shouldn't be there. It's like the saddest person working at Disney. But he makes a couple of short movies for Disney, and then he goes off. Frankenweenie and Vincent, which you guys, if you've never seen Vincent, it's great.
I have seen Vincent.
Vincent's great. I love both of those. I love Frankenweenie. That was that and Sleepy Hollow and Mr. Toad. That short
I
those are
remember.
staples growing up for me. So
Still.
Yeah.
still,
I remember watching the old Disney Channel back when it was premium cable. Like they
Right.
would show Frankenweenie like every Halloween or so.
let's see. Daniel Stern,
And Shelley Duvall, yeah.
and that kid that was in like everything, Daryl, and what else? Man, that kid was in like. He's older now and looks just like Jim Herron, and I mean that in a good way, Jim.
In the most
Because
positive way.
he's got a really thick beard and longer hair, and he does like old style photography now.
Oh, Barrett Oliver.
Barrett Oliver, yeah,
Oh, the kid from Neverending Story. Holy.
yeah, Never Ending Story kid.
Mm.
Well,
All right then. I'm thoroughly impressed, but I'm glad that he's doing well for himself now because I mean, again, Neverending Story, that was another childhood staple, but
Oh, yeah. I used to keep
but
that and An American Tail checked out at the video store like constantly, and they were finally like, "Yeah, you should probably like leave these for other people."
mhm,
someone else might want to watch this movie.
All right,
Those are
yeah,
we go in.
Steven Spielberg and Yeah, that's like if your parents were like, maybe your childhood is too cushy. We need you to have a little bit of trauma so you have like some perspective. You need to watch these
Right.
never-ending story for
Yeah, those are.
Oh God. Well, no, Don Bluth was kind of the king of childhood trauma. I think we discussed this back in our Secret of Nim um, discussion.
Animation is the most gorgeous animation I've ever seen. Like
But
classic style animation.
yeah,
That opening shot. Okay, and I won't get on to a Secret of Nim
tangent because we already talked about
because
it.
we're in another movie. But that opening scene where Nicodemus is riding with his quill and that sparkle dust or whatever it is, that magic ink,
The Don Bluth sparkle.
and the water, like all the stuff in the test tubes and the bubbles, like everything is just so freaking gorgeous in that shot, and I love it. It's one of my most favorite animated shots ever because it's just so.
It's a masterpiece of cinema, not just
Yeah.
animation, in my opinion.
I can't go on and on. Like as an adult, I'm sitting here and I'm like, to not only paint that, but to animate it and it show up that, like everyone gushes over
Where does it
Disney.
hit that hard? It's Don
Yeah,
Bluth's magic.
like to have that much detail in it and to look as gorgeous as it does, like an animated still painting come to life. I can't go on enough about it. But anyway, back
to
to
tie it back in.
So
Talking about stop motion, I think that Wendell in the Wild is going to be bananas.
yeah.
but
yeah,
I will.
but yeah,
I have my complaints about Tim Burton, but I will say this: he is a very staunch defender of animation as an art form. So I mean, I have my complaints about him, but I will give him props for that, especially since they could have easily done Nightmare Before Christmas in his signature live action style, but they took a risk and did stop motion, and again, it's become a movie that's that has endured to this day. Like the movie is almost 30 years old.
Yep. And what's funny is when they were making it, I guess, he had those. Well, actually, all 4 of his live action films he had made up at this point were pretty well successful films, so he's a big name. So Disney's like, well, come back and do something with us now. And so he gets the idea because, he's in the stores and he's seeing, it's Halloween time, but like there's Christmas stuff already out. Like, what's going on? So he kind of comes up with his own little version of The Night Before Christmas and changes it and bases it off like the Rankin and Bass style Christmas specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
See, I remember a while back it still might be in print, but I think there is basically Tim Burton's original picture book that was the basis of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I think I've seen that around
recently.
Yeah, like it not recent. Like I remember they had that book when the movie came out.
Right. I meant like I saw it recently because you know how your computer and your phone are always listening to you, and I'm always on books.com. I know I've seen it, like shots of the inside of the book recently because I was showing it to our kids. I can't believe that I didn't make the Rankin and Bass connection to Nightmare Before Christmas before now, because of course
it's not. The style isn't quite the same because it's Tim Burton's distinct style, but yeah, a lot of that is a shout out to the Rankin Bass puppet tunes. I honestly think there was a bigger Rankin Bass connection in The Incredibles with all the character designs and that. In fact, there is there's like several commentaries in there on the original DVD, and one of them is are the animators talking about, yeah, this movie is a whole big shout out to Rankin Bass.
I may be wrong, but I believe Brad Bird and Tim Burton were at Cal Arts at the same time
It wouldn't
because
surprise me.
they're
Like
roughly around the same age. And
all those all those big names, especially from Pixar, went to Cal Arts at this around the same time.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So now that I have that connection in my brain, that is basically a bulletin board with maps and photos, like all stringed together with yarn. Now that I have that connection, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
and I'm sure y'all probably know this, but Tim Burton was when he was an animator at Disney, he was an animator on The Black Cauldron,
yep,
and
Yes.
he animated the scenes where the Horn King reanimates the dead, and
mm-hmm.
I call that the scene that earned Disney Animation its first PG rating.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So now that I have those tied together, I'm gonna throw out a recommendation. Patton Oswalt comes up a lot for some reason as a movie
Well,
buff himself. He does
mhm.
a bit about an attraction at a Disney park that was. He jokes that it was built by people who are like, we're gonna need a steady stream of animators for all the things that we make that make us lots of money, but we have to have that one depressed goth kid. And the fact that Tim Burton worked on the Black Cauldron and the whole Rankin and Bass tie-in, oh my goodness. You gotta
Well,
watch it. It's my
He was
I-
their one depressed goth kid.
He was. And I feel like maybe Don Bluth was like the prototype for that. Like somebody who was really talented and working under, holy cow.
Well, also you mentioned Patton Oswalt. He was Remy the Rat in Ratatouille.
Yep.
He was.
Yeah.
He's good.
It's my
Which,
second, probably my second favorite Pixar. My first.
He does another joke about the first Halloween that after Ratatouille came out, about all
Yep.
the people who came to his store dressed as Remy, and his whole Halloween tradition of like taking psychedelics.
Ugh.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That's great. I love that bit. He's one of my favorite comedians. But what's interesting about this movie is, yes, Disney wanted to work with Tim Burton again, but then they were like, I don't know if we should put the Disney banner on this movie. And like they were scared, I guess, because it was a little more darker and more
different.
spooky. And they released it under Touchstone when it came out, right? It was a Touchstone movie, much like
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit was. But now Disney's all like, yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas. We love it. It's a proud Disney tradition.
Oh yeah.
They can't make enough money off of that thing. That is all your targeted ads are going to be between September and almost January.
Basically, they set it out there, and when people flocked to it, they ran over there, peed on it real quick, dominated it, and they were
The
like,
vultures at Disney.
"This is ours."
A round
bitch."
of applause for the vultures
Well,
at Disney.
I
Yeah.
think it was a modest success critically and financially when it first came out, but I think much like Hocus Pocus, it just
A cult following. Ka-ching.
yeah. Well, I mean, also it had Tim Burton's name attached to it, so that probably brought in a little bit of attention for people to watch, but I think people just watched it every year because it became, and like there's people who probably watch it at Halloween and at Christmas time, or they just have it on a loop from October to December.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the popular running joke is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie? Yes.
Yes, the answer is
It's
yes.
both.
Obviously.
And
Okay. Hold on.
do you
Okay,
guys notice some of the Tim Burton regulars he's worked with that are voice actors in this?
Well, of course, there's Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman, who wrote all the music, sang all the songs as Jack Skellington, probably as some other characters. scored the whole thing. Catherine O'Hara is Sally.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
also
Oh.
one of the bad kids, and so is Paul Rubens, and
Paul
Danny Elfman's
Rubens.
the other kid.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I'm glad you mentioned Sally. Are you aware that they have written a Nightmare Before Christmas? There's a book
Yes.
that's
Yeah, I
out
saw
about
it.
Sally.
There, the Pumpkin Queen. It's in my dreams now. It's so I don't know anything about it other than the cover, the fact that it's about her, and it's all my targeted ads. But I have to read it. It was in Walmart the other day, and I was like, I gotta eat, but it's there.
I think I saw that one at Hot Topic too, and someone posted that on their Facebook. That's how I first found out about it.
Yeah, I've seen that recently, so that's, I guess, good timing that's out, and something for
Sally.
Yeah.
the big. But she's a great character. Like, she's really the hero of the story.
She's the only one who's like thinking at all beyond like what she wants. But she was able to be an assistant, so maybe that's part of it. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the soapbox away, but let's all marinate on that idea. That Sally was built to assist. Sally's actually the only person talking any sense in this movie. And that's all I'll say.
So did the mad scientist creator to just have a companion, or did he want her as like his wife?
I think maybe he just built her so beautiful. He's like, I can't resist, but she can't resist because I'm the creator.
Yeah.
I'm the doctor in this situation.
But yeah, it's such, and I like that she's always having to put herself back together again.
Mm-hmm. That's another point to marinate on. Oh my goodness.
So, do you think Oogie Boogie and Quentin Tarantino hang? Because they apparently have a shared fetish.
Oh God, you got to bring that up.
I love Oogie
I would be
Boogie.
less surprised if Bugs crawled out of Quentin Tarantino's receding hairline based on his attitude towards women and how Oogie Boogie.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit, I've said this before in earlier discussions. Tarantino is not a slouch when it comes to film directing, but oh my God, the way his fans just drool over him. It's like, it's kind of like being a fan of Christ, but not of Christians. I like Quentin Tarantino's movies, but I don't like his fans.
I've come to the term, I don't think I like him. I like his movies, though, so I don't know what's going on with that, like how I can separate the two. Or maybe I'm just recognizing he has talent, but he's not a cool dude.
Yeah. Oh, I am, well, again, like I said earlier, I am perfectly willing to admit that artist is good at what they do, but also at the same time acknowledge that they were a giant douche.
Yes.
It's like we dealt with this all the time in music history and in jazz history. And one of the things I'll never forget is when we talked about romantic music and post-romantic music, and we got to Richard Wagner, and my teacher called him the world's first Nazi. Because, he basically paved the way for not just opera composers, but also film composers, and how we look at film scores now. But, yeah, the dude was seriously anti-Semitic. But
did you guys know Otho's the mayor?
Actually, I was just looking. I was just looking at that. I was like, "Wait a minute, this guy looks familiar." It's like he's not in it because the headshot that they have of him, he looks like a normal person. But But yeah, it's like, wait a minute, that looks. Oh, he's Otho.
Yeah. I think he's
Oh,
also an ape in Planet of the Apes, but yeah, he's the voice of the mayor in
He,
this.
yeah,
and again, yeah. Okay.
yeah,
That
the
line that the mayor has where he's like, he says something about, I'm an elected official, I can't make decisions by myself. Why that makes my kids giggle so hard, but that's like the funniest thing he says in the whole thing. To them.
that's kind of like Mel Brooks in Spaceballs saying, "I can't make decisions. I'm the president."
Yeah.
But,
It might
I
be a
mean,
shout
go
out
ahead.
to that.
But Jack has good intentions. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm quoting Spaceballs. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jack has good intentions and he thinks he's doing something good because he's tired of Halloween all the time. But like, it's just I love that scene where he visits the first kid and the parents are like, "Oh, what'd Santa bring you? Oh, just a decapitated head."
Yeah.
Oh,
So sad, like, exactly what I didn't want, Mom and Dad. There you go.
And
no,
we used to have the little bat doll riding on the evil rubber ducky.
Nice.
oh, it's funny you mentioned that because one thing my friend pointed out, Nightmare Before Christmas is essentially about a guy who's gotten bored with his job and he realized he just needs a hobby.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Jack Skellington's having a midlife crisis.
More or less.
What is midlife if you're like immortal though? Like how many Halloweens did it take to be like, I'm gonna try my hand at like Christmas or Easter?
Immortal and at the same time undead.
Right.
Yeah, so that was another thing when they're like, he's been blown to smithereens. I'm like, he's a skeleton. Can he just like put himself back together?
He already lit himself on fire and like half drowned himself in a fountain.
That is
Totally
a
fine.
really cool opening too, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Okay, our youngest almost had a nuclear meltdown at Spirit Halloween like yesterday about Zero. They had a Zero puppet that you hang from your ceiling, and we already have a pet named after the ghost dog. Like,
Yeah.
I love talking about this movie, partly because I've been forced to watch it so many times, but also because like it's just that great of a movie.
Doesn't sound like you were forced too hard to watch it.
No, it's like forced. Like we're turning this on. Okay, how many times have we watched it today? 2. That's a reasonable amount. We'll keep watching.
But yeah, how you feel about Hocus Pocus, Lindsay, is how I feel about this movie. It's just a staple.
It's just there. It's just part of your experience this time of year, and you can't avoid it. And resistance is futile.
And it is so much Tim Burton, but I think Henry Selick gets overshadowed at his great direction in this movie.
Yes.
Because he directed it. He did it.
Yeah.
Tim Burton just came up with the idea, honestly.
Yeah, he's just a producer, and some producers just don't really do all that much except put up the money for. I'm glad you actually mentioned that because people associated that with Tim Burton so much, almost to the point to where they associated Tim Burton with Coraline, and he didn't even touch the project. It's like that you got the wrong gothic icon, people.
Yep. Before we segue into Coraline, I just wanted to share one other story about this movie. And if you guys have seen the Netflix series, the movies that made us or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
they did a Christmas one and they covered this one, and it talked about how they didn't have, like, they had this budget, but they were like missing 15 or 20 minutes of the movie. And they're like, we don't know if we're going to be able to finish the movie. So one of the producers was like, I'll take it down to, because I think they were making this in San Francisco, because I think that's where Henry Selick's from, or where Henry Selick worked in his studio. And the producer's like, I'll take it down to LA, I'll show it to Disney. And she shows them the movie, and they're like, is that it? She's like, well, you said we only had this for budget. Do you want to know what happens after this? Do you want to know what happens to this character? Do you want to know how this scene gets resolved? We're going to need more money so we can finish the movie. And
Nice.
she
Yeah.
got the budget so they could finish the movie.
What a hook and a pitch. Oh my gosh. That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
That's a power move right there.
I mean, that doesn't always work though, but I'm glad it did in that instance.
No, it doesn't.
Well, they had probably already invested so much in it because those things aren't cheap and they take so long, especially in early '90s terms, to shoot those things because you're shooting.
I don't know that stop motion has got any more labor intensive.
You're
since
shooting.
then.
Yeah, you're shooting what, a couple of minutes a day, if that. I mean,
Yeah.
That's okay. Another recommendation, even if you're an adult, stop motion studio is like $5 for your smartphone, even if it's really old. And our kids have spent how long just playing that app and making their own stop motion?
Well,
It's
oh,
just-
actually, here's the thing. A lot of people do a lot of I'm in the Transformers fandom, and a lot of people who do make YouTube videos about Transformer toys, they do stop motion. So there is a fascination with it. In fact, there are several videos. I'll put them on the website a little bit later if you want. But there are videos where they recreate key scenes from the G1 cartoon, but they use the current Transformers Masterpiece toys for in place of the animation. But they actually keep the animation for the humans, and to see that mixed in is it's pretty amazing.
Mesmerizing. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
another. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said, I'll put up a link to one of those a little bit later tonight if you're interested.
Another shout out before we segue is Kubo and the Two Strings.
Which is the same company that
Yeah,
made
Yes.
Coraline.
Leica Studios.
Yeah.
Leica Studios.
Coraline was their first movie, and their director of Kubo and the Two Strings was one of the animators on this movie.
Nice. That's another gorgeous. And Regina Spektor's cover of
Oh, My
Mama
Guitar
Guitar.
Gently Weeps. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great movie. I love Kubo and the Two Strings.
Actually, funny thing, the director of Kubo and the Two Strings ended up making the Bumblebee movie,
Yeah,
and he was off. It did pretty well. It did well enough that they offered him the next Transformers movie, but he declined, saying he wanted to keep working in animation.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Henry Selick and Neil Gaiman joining forces. Come
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
on, it's
god.
like a dream come true.
Your art major girlfriend's favorite author.
For good reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman rules.
Yeah, actually, I think that Coraline. I did see Coraline in the theater.
Me too.
And I want to say it was the first Neil Gaiman story that I actually was exposed to, and
Yeah.
then
So
later.
you read the children's book? Because I read it first too. It's a great book.
No, I saw the movie. I saw the movie first, and then
Okay.
and actually there was a comic book adaptation of the children's book, which they really toned down a lot of the creepier aspects in the movie.
They sure
'Cause,
did.
oh my god! Of
wonder
course,
if that's-
knowing
Palatable to make into a movie. That comic book adaptation.
I don't really. I think the original Coraline movie is good in and of itself, but for reasons I'll get into later. But I do respect Neil Gaiman for being able to write I guess across different demographics, because
Yeah.
I knew he existed. I knew, of course, Sandman was still really, really big in the 90s, all
I
through the
think it ran
90s and
till
to the.
96, right? The comic?
Yeah, it started in '88, but I didn't really read it that much because one, I was still a little bit into superheroes, and the covers seemed a little bit too um, avant-garde. Because I saw the covers and um, I thought that would be the art style for the entire comic. I wasn't really ready for that. And now that I think about it, Coraline wasn't my first Neil Gaiman story. It was Mirror Mask.
Oh, yeah, that's the movie he helped write that was
He
joint produced by the Jim Henson Company.
Yeah, and Dave McKean, the artist for the Sandman covers, not the actual comic itself, but the covers. He directed it.
That's right. Yeah. Uh, I'm going to recommend that you guys all watch the Netflix series. It's really good. And Lindsay, speaking of Patton Oswalt, he shows up as a voice of a raven, which in the comic, the raven didn't talk, but
She'll be right back.
I
Sorry,
am
I didn't want you to
Yeah.
say her talking to Lindsay when she wasn't here. So
later on. I've read the entire run of Neil Gaiman Sandman, and it is uh, the man is a master writer. The I mean,
he also did the English translation for Princess Mononoke.
that's actually That's actually pretty cool. I actually got to see Neil Gaiman speak several months ago. It
Cool.
was the weekend of my birthday, and that was my present.
That's a present, man. I mean,
So yeah, he was reading off different short stories that he wrote.
cool.
Yeah, and one of the latest ones, I'm kind of kicking myself for not remembering it, but it was written for Neil Adams, who at the time recently passed away. It was his tribute to Neil Adams because he's really I'd say he's really beloved by other creators in the comic book industry, except for Todd McFarlane. Yeah, yeah. Your laugh indicates that you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, those of you who are watching this, Todd McFarlane, he had his Spawn comic, and he was spouting all about creator ownership, and creators should be able to do what create, do whatever, and be able to make money off of it. And he said any guest writer would get royalties off his comics and their creations. And Neil Gaiman wrote a guest issue of that. And there was also a dispute with the rights of. It was called Marvel Man in the UK, but it's called Miracle Man here. Neil Gaiman wrote some issues for that. Of course, for you comic fans, it's mostly known for Alan Moore's run.
I was fixed to say, yeah, that's what it's mostly known as, Alan Moore's run.
Yeah, but Todd McFarlane was saying that he ended up buying some of the rights and was trying to sell it to him, but nobody really knew at the time that McFarlane was dealing with an empty hand. So Neil Gaiman sued him. In fact, this series, Marvel 1602, that was made as a fundraiser for Neil Gaiman's legal fees.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Neil Gaiman won.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, and just originally hearing that story made me lose what little respect I had for Todd McFarlane.
I don't know. He came up with a cool idea, but he's not really he's not that great of a writer.
There was a convention that he was at in Texas.
I know what you're talking about. I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah, where he badmouthed, like it was like F Texas or something like this. And I get it.
You live in Texas?
Yeah, I get it. There are times where I want to say F Texas, but I don't know. At the time and under the context, I think he was just being a complete, it was or he was just having one of his douchey Todd.
Enough about him trying to spend 30 years making a Spawn sequel. Let's get back to the lovely Neil Gaiman and
Neil Gaiman
and their wonderful movie.
Neil Gaiman is a superior writer in every sense of the word. And
I would think of his generation, the only other two writers I think that come to the caliber of Neil Gaiman is Alan Moore and Grant Morrison.
I honestly like Neil Gaiman more than Alan Moore.
I do too, because I haven't read any of Alan Moore's the two novels Alan Moore wrote, but I think Neil Gaiman also would probably be a better human being to chill with.
Yeah.
Just to be around in general.
Again,
it's
also it's kind of like Tarantino. I acknowledge that his work has been hugely influential and changed the game a lot in the comic book industry, but again, his fans will not shut up about him. In fact, actually, not even just his fans. Like every Batman writer since 1986.
Oh.
Yeah, well, or 1988. 1988 was when The Killing Joke came out. 86 was Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. Well, Frank Miller is a very problematic bro right now.
Well, yeah, but ever since The Killing Joke, it seems every writer who writes Batman and the Joker, it feels like they're trying to up the darkness, as if to say to Alan Moore, "Senpai, notice me!"
Who can be the edgiest, I guess?
So Alan Moore is Immortal Joe.
Edgelord battle.
And Alan Moore is like, ugh. But
Alan Moore is interesting. He has some interesting,
he wrote some phenomenal, groundbreaking books. You talk about people prominently knowing his Miracle Man run. I think his Swamp Thing run is also the most famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also his Superman stories.
Human being, he's into the occult and he's really weird, and his books are great, but he can be a real, like Todd McFarlane, who put out some really cool stuff. He can be a real dick and as a human being,
because he's reached his tolerance for humanity and mankind.
Yeah, like you want them to be cool. You're like, man, I think they would be really cool.
Well,
they weren't so full of themselves.
Probably not a surprise the guy who wrote Watchmen might be a bit of
yeah.
Now, I'm not fully siding with Alan Moore.
Because you don't have to do that.
I don't have to do that.
Nuance.
You can disagree with the way that they adapt your content into movies.
Your favorite content, not your content.
Well, his movies. Like he got up and walked out of several of his movies. He's hated them all. He
hated V for Vendetta, which I would say is the best of the adaptations.
Yeah, I think he just walked away from it completely after League of Extraordinary
Gentlemen.
And that was rightly so, because that movie was capital
He had
T.
a right to be.
Drove Sean Connery into retirement. It's like
I wasn't happy with From Hell either, though.
But I liked From Hell.
He was upset that they cast Johnny Depp in the lead.
Good for him.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Look at him being ahead of the game by 20 years.
Saw it coming.
Hey, he used his mystical powers to look into the future, and he's like, nope, that dude's no good.
From Hell was one of the movies I watched my first Halloween month. We stayed up until dawn to watch together.
All right. we're on the subjects like comic book writers, but
Coraline,
because
have a snippet, a little interesting tidbit. The other mother in Coraline is actually partially inspired by a story called The New Mother, which is a weird Victorian tale by author Lucy Clifford, and it was retold in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. It's called The Drum. Obviously he changed a few things, but that's just like a little bit. If you want to go deeper and deeper through the rabbit hole, and you just keep looking for things.
Well,
I don't want to go on a side tangent again here, but you mentioning where the kind of the basis of that story and who is written by, don't you find it very odd that the horror genre in general has been predominantly male dominated when two of its foundational novels were written by women, and I'm talking about Frankenstein and The Haunting of Hill House?
okay, you are right, but I will actually that's
Which will
something you mentioned that one thing I noticed before was a lot of Neil Gaiman's protagonists tend to be women.
Yeah.
Women and people of color. Yeah, children, people of color. Like I've read American Gods before.
Oh God,
that's a good one. But also, it's funny you mentioned the Victorian literature, Lindsay, because one thing about Neil Gaiman is the man does his research.
Yeah, he did a whole book on Norse mythology.
Yeah, and see, if I kind of when I was thumbing through American Gods, it's like Mr. Wednesday's like, oh, it's Odin.
Well, you talk about characters of color. He did a whole spin-off novel from American Gods, which is
Anansi Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've started that book. I'm like halfway through it, and for some reason, I put it down and never picked it back up, and I'm kind of kicking myself for it, especially after going to hear him speak, because like hearing his stories in his own words it's an experience.
But wow, for this to be Lakia's first movie, this is like top-notch animation. I can't imagine what the budget was, but it looks like they had a great budget.
Oh, for Coraline?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the things I love. It's like, you remember the post-credit scene?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Basically showing a time lapse of what it takes to actually build the puppet for the Coraline puppet.
I also like that it takes the whole concept of what we think about secret doors, because mostly we think of Narnia, right? And Magical Land. And it's like, nope, it's a hellscape on that other side of the door.
No, it's a trap. It's a honey trap.
Yep.
Actually, that was another thing. It's like, yeah, it definitely makes you think differently about buttons. Like, especially the old school dolls with buttons for eyes. I've always kind of I never done this, mind you, because I figured it'd be too much of a dick move. But I wanted to give a girl one of those La La Loopsy dolls. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like little dolls with buttons for eyes, and then I make them watch Coraline.
Hey, you guys wanna know a little cool tidbit? Nightmare Before Christmas was actually released on this date back in 1993.
29 years ago. Wow.
Oh my God! I didn't realize.
That's good timing.
I'll say.
So we timed it just right.
Well, I guess it's a good thing Kevin couldn't do this week's show.
Right.
So we can talk about Nightmare Before Christmas on its 29th anniversary.
Yeah, wow. that was that's a sign.
You know who's got a cool voice?
Who? Oh, I know who you're talking about, but say it anyway.
Keith David, man. God, I
Oh
love
my god.
Keith David, and he's great as
Yeah.
the
It's like,
cat.
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not the other anything. I'm me.
Which he's also in Princess and the Frog as the bad guy in that one.
Oh,
Smooth,
Dr.
smooth.
Facilier. Princess and the Frog was one of the few, um, it's like Disney villains I actually liked.
And
Wasn't
he's a
that the
great
last?
villain.
Wasn't that the last Disney
That was the last
really
2D and
animated?
well, I guess
No,
technically Winnie the Pooh was,
yeah,
but because Princess and the Frog was not a huge success, they redid Tangled because Tangled was supposed to be traditional 2D animation too. Because
yeah,
when Lotso Huggenbear, John Lasseter, was the head of Disney Animation, that's what he wanted. He wanted Disney to go back to 2D animation and Pixar do all the CGI. But because Princess and the Frog didn't do well, they halted their 2D department
which is
completely.
funny because now there's a mini series coming out on Disney Plus about Tiana.
Yeah.
What?
Because, yes,
Oh my gosh.
and I'm pretty sure they got Anika Noni Rose to do the voice again.
Oh, great.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Tiana is my youngest is really big into like helping cooking. She loves Tiana. She always wants to like. She just wants pots and pans and ingredients, and she doesn't want any input from me at all.
But what do you guys like about this movie?
oh god, this.
I liked
First of
it.
all, the mood and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that, Coraline is pretty much written like what a real tween kid would be.
It's very realistic, and I find it interesting, and it could just be because she was the child actor at that time that Dakota Fanning voices her, because she also did a voice in the English dub of Totoro.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
but
But she's
ac-
good. I mean, she's great as the voice of Coraline.
and Coraline also everybody was pretty, pretty realistic in that. And again, some of it's Neil Gaiman's writing, some of it's Henry Selick's adaptation, but it was so uh like also the creep factor, especially when you kind of start realizing that the other mother is the bad guy. And
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh
and
my.
that scene where like she like elongates herself and then like they fall in that spider web and she's got to like get herself out and then the
oh yeah, that
doorway
was
keeps getting closer and closer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's climbing through the web and I guess twangs on something, and that's how she's able to tell, like, pinpoint where she is. But
Yes.
um
That
also,
science and angst and like like the whole the spidery creep factor like you were talking about is another mesmerizing part of what makes Coraline so fun to watch and rewatch.
Yeah,
Spooky season or not.
it's the creep factor. That's what it is. So,
Also,
And being a preteen teen kid who's like starting to question their parents'
Yeah.
decision making.
oh yeah,
hats off to Terry Hatcher, who basically has to give like two different types of performances. She's basically doing two performances.
yeah. I mean,
Twice as much.
she's more than just a pretty face.
Mm-hmm.
She's more than Lois Lane.
and a
Yeah,
bomb girl.
but actually, we mentioned this before the broadcast, before we started broadcasting. But yeah, 2009 was a very um, major year for animation because it was up for best animated feature at the Oscars, and here's the other movies it had to go up against: Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I think I like Wes Anderson's movies better as animated than
So you
most.
like this in Isle of Dogs?
Yes. Princess and the Frog, which we talked about earlier. Secret of Kells, which I didn't even know existed until they talked about it, and then I had to
Yeah.
rent it, and then, realized how good it was. And then there was Up
Up.
that won.
Yeah.
But
If you like Secret of the Kells, if you want to do a free trial of Apple TV, there's an animated film called Wolfwalkers that's
I've
really good.
I've heard of that. It's like the same studio, right?
Yeah, it's just because they're from Ireland.
Yeah. But that was
Yeah, that's a
like
phenomenal year for animation. And also Ghibli Miyazaki came out with Ponyo that year, which is a really sweet,
yes.
touching movie.
Yes.
Much healthier version of The Little Mermaid.
Well, I've I offer a different take on the Little Mermaid, if I may.
Go for it.
Ariel has never truly been happy in the mermaid world. She's always been fascinated with humans and humanity, like judging by her hoarder cave. Prince Eric was just the catalyst. Like uh, Prince Eric was was what pushed her into already getting further into what she was already fantasized in about. Basically, what I'm saying is Little Mermaid is a transgender metaphor.
Oh,
That's a solid one.
interesting.
Yeah, she didn't change her body for a man. She changed her body to fit into where she felt most comfortable.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
Anyways, Coraline.
yeah.
$8.
Just wanted to get that out there. I've kind of grown sick of the whole Disney princess. It's all about getting a man. No, it's not. Especially the newer ones.
Oh, the newer ones have been great with that storyline. And speaking of Little Mermaid, did you know the guys that did Little Mermaid did Moana, which has
Yes.
no love interest?
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
I
Well,
do not like Moana at all, but that's cool.
with me, honestly, going back to Princess and the Frog, I would say it's not about getting the man. It's like actually the man had to go through a lot of character development himself, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the point. The point is there are more important things in life than the goal.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
And
even if you're annoyed with Frozen, I like that the message at the end of that was that the true love was with her sibling, not a
yeah.
romantic interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, that Disney has gotten, they're not perfect, but they've gotten better at
They
like
Yeah.
are on this side of controversy based on where the money is. But they are still doing something, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frozen
But-
felt like a big commercial.
But Lakia,
anyway, yeah.
they knock it out of the park almost every time.
Yeah, they
Right.
Yes. Yes,
And-
I agree.
And I love that they got John Hodgman to be the dad in this.
Yeah. Oh, you know that it was originally conceived as a musical, and they might be giants to write some of the songs.
Oh, wow. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to find that.
I gotta say, Ian McShane's character, pretty limber dude for that big of a belly.
Yeah.
And there was something going around where his character was supposed to be a World War One.
Really? So he's supposed to be like 100 years old? Or
You know,
over?
People are
It
when
was
you're
something
13,
about
they're
the
all
badges, like his medals that he wore, that were like they signified something, and it was something about I don't know, like Something to do with World War One. I don't know. It was weird. I should have
Yep.
before I mentioned it.
And we all know those old ladies that have 900 dogs and candy that's been
Oh
in their
God,
house for 20 years.
yes, and they were roommates.
Yep.
That's another thing. Like Neil, going back to Neil Gaiman and how he writes, how he doesn't write for the stereotypical white male age 18 to 49. That the Spinks and Miss Forcible, they are supposed to be a gay couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. I think they're fun. I feel sorry for their little Scotty dogs, though.
Yeah. It's like they just stuff. One of them dies, the stuff one, and just make another.
But I think that's part of not just how wonderful the animation is and how top notch it is. I love that there's just all these quirky characters surrounding this story.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just the story itself.
All the characters are interesting.
Yeah. Wish they would have named the kid a better name, though. Poor guy.
Oh, which one? Wybie?
Wybie? Yeah.
Oh, God. Actually, this is what I want to say. I ship them. I ship Coraline and Wybie. And wow, this is like uncomfortable silence here. But yeah, Wybie's a pretty good character, and everyone is pretty. I wouldn't say well-rounded, but they're interesting. Especially even the other versions of the characters.
Everyone, yeah.
Because there's it's like when after Coraline gets that starts the game, the other father starts attacking her, and the whole time he's saying, "Sorry, I can't." It's like, I can't help it. She's controlling me.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a magical mechanical grasshopper to grow plants too. It'd be easy too.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, you guys are talking like you prefer this over The Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know if I prefer it over because of, I feel like Nightmare Before Christmas is attached in its own area. But if we were just going on, direction and, what he was able to accomplish, of course this is a better film. This is his masterpiece as far as what he's getting to do in the art form of stop motion animation.
Yeah. I am going on personal taste here. Yeah. Nightmare Before Christmas is a good movie. I think I missed the zeitgeist that it's not so much a cultural touchstone movie for me. So it is a good movie, but I like Coraline better. And I just want to throw out this bit. It's like I talked about how they toned down the spookiness of the original version. There's a part in the book where Coraline suggests the game to the other mother, and Coraline saying, "Are you sure you won't cheat?" It says, and the other mother says, "I swear on my mother's grave." And Coraline asks, "Your mother has a grave?" She says, "Oh yes, I put her there myself, and when she climbed out, I put her back in." Just that line of dialogue, just that says a lot how Neil Gaiman's imagination goes.
Well, he did a whole book about, basically he did the Jungle Book, but this time the kid's raised by a bunch of ghosts.
The graveyard book.
Yeah, it's a really good read.
Yeah.
I
I'll have
mean, he's a great writer, and I'm glad that he got. He's only had two like big screen adaptations so far, but maybe TV's a better place for most of these things to get adapted.
I kind of agree because his books go really, really deep, and sometimes that can't exactly be um, contained into even a 2 or 3 hour movie. So yeah,
But this being a children's book, I guess this was pretty easier to adapt into a feature film.
yeah, I'm yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what Leica has next. It also, you mentioned how they put. We need to talk about Paranorman sometime.
Yes, Paranorman rules. And not to tie this back to Tim Burton, but Paranorman came out the same year as the animated version of Frankenweenie. And not that that's a bad movie, but Paranorman is a far much better film.
It is a better film, and not to, and again, because Tim Burton, he champions animation. I'll give him that pass, but I prefer the short better than
Yeah,
than the movie.
that I think so too. I think the short's better, but yeah, Henry Selick is, if you, I guess only animation people know his name, but you should know his name because I would say he's directed three of the best animated films ever made. Because I think James and the Giant Peach is a really good film too.
Right.
Oh yeah, talk
That
about
is, yeah.
an,
I forgot.
another influential author. Roald
Roald
Dahl.
Dahl, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the greatest person, but hey.
Again, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
here's some other pretty good movies that came out at the same time as Coraline. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that came out. Yes, Chris Lord and Phil Miller. If the movie sounds
Yes,
like it's going to be a bad idea, well, give it to them because they're going to make it good.
yes, that's like
Because they did the
they have
Lego
that.
movie, they did 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, and also Into the Spider. Well, they didn't direct it, but they produced it. Into the Spider Verse,
Yeah.
probably the best Spider-Man movie I've seen since Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2.
Oh, hands down, it's the best Spider Man movie since Spider Man 2. And God, what that movie does with animation is
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, that kind of. I mean, talking about pushing limits, like Nightmare Before Christmas kind of pushed the limits for stop motion. Then Leica did it further and further and further. But yeah, I kind of hate Sony for all these Spider-Man movie spin-offs, but they knocked it out of the park with Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they actually did a good job with that one. But
Yeah,
that's because
but
it's also because it's still Spider-Man. It's not, let's make this villain an anti-hero, guys, cuz we don't have any characters to use.
to me, Sony is like that one kid who comes to your house to play video games and he keeps dying over and over and over again. And you want to just take the controller, but he keeps saying, "No, no, I got it this time." That's how Sony is with the Spider-Man, with characters from the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah. But man, what a first film for them to make, to adapt a novel from an acclaimed writer to get the guy who did The Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, that was a uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I want to put this out there. Like Neil Gaiman has been on record as saying he really doesn't want adaptation, one-to-one translations of his work, because he feels if they wanted that, they'd go with his original work. So I gotta respect him for that. I think for too long we've just seen um, adaptations of works that are okay, but they don't really have that same oomph as the original book because they don't have the technology to do do what's described in the book at the time, or they just want to a director wants to put their personal vision over it, and I think that changed with Spider-Man and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, where we started seeing more faithful adaptations um, to previously published source material, and I think it's kind of gotten a little bit out of hand.
Right.
So I can understand why Neil Gaiman has the stance that he does.
But he's okay if like they make changes to the story,
Yeah.
long as it's kind of in the feel of what he created, because it is adaptation. I feel like I have to write that in caps almost every time someone comments on something like, "Well, it wasn't that way in the book," or "That's not how the character was in the book." Like, especially with casting a character differently than what they were written.
Well,
I want to
yeah.
be like, adaptation.
Well, yeah. Wybie didn't even exist in the book.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, he was written in because they didn't. They felt it would be too weird for Coraline to talk to herself all the time.
Well, yeah, because you can get away with that in a book because you're in the mind of the protagonist as you're reading, but seeing that like visually, you're like, okay, what's wrong with this girl? Why is she talking to herself? You
Yeah.
know? So that makes
And
sense.
there are moments where Coraline does talk to herself, but
Uh-huh.
it's not quite so much.
Yeah, plus he's a nice kid. I like that addition.
Yeah.
And that he communicates with the cat, even though not really, but like they have some sort of
The cat picked him.
yeah.
I have that feel because that's how one of my cats. It's like that's how I have one of my cats now.
I just think this is a wonderful film, and I'm glad that Henry Selick's got a new movie coming out, even though it's taken over a decade. And I guess it took almost a decade between Monkey Bone and Coraline because Monkey Bone did not do well, but also like this movie probably took a very long time to make because I'm pretty sure Selick
Well,
and
yeah.
Gaiman met not too long after Coraline came out as a book
Well, yeah.
to adapt it.
Oh, and also, Henry Selick is coming up on his 70th birthday. He turns 70 this November.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the poster for Wendell and Wild, and I am already for it.
It looks great. And I can imagine Jordan Peele's also a fan of these movies.
Well, yeah, Jordan Peele, I feel is um, he has a thing for the I guess the Twilight Zone-ish things, judging by the movie output that he has so far, with Get Out, Up, and now Nope.
Plus, he produced his own version of the Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
definitely. I still need to watch that.
Haven't seen the second season. I only saw the first season.
He
Yeah.
is Rod Serling reincarnated, basically. I think that's my belief. Like Rod Serling died and then just came back as
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele.
Does
And
that track? Did Rod Serling die before 1979?
Yeah. Actually,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he died like 74. Let me check.
So that's my theory is that, and he might. I like
75. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
died
did.
died in se- but his
So
birthday's on.
we're
Actually,
just
he
getting
would.
modern day. We're just getting modern day Rod Sterling.
Okay, he
Yeah,
was 70. Or he died in 75, 34, 4. No, he was
yeah,
young.
yeah,
He was barely 50.
and he also this Christmas would be his 98th would have been his 98th birthday.
So you might be right, Chris.
Well, I mean, look at what we've got so far. It is really that's what I equate him to is just a modern day Rod Sterling. His movies are not really horror movies.
Oh, well,
I
hopefully
mean, they are in
Jordan
a
Peele
way.
hasn't smoked 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes a day. I guess that's why he
Yeah,
I think
died
he
of a
learned his
heart
lesson.
attack.
I think he learned his lesson, and he came back as like, man, I'm pretty cool this time around. I'll put out some quality stuff.
well,
Came
I'm
back
not
with a
sure.
sense of humor.
I would. I mean, I'm not. If not Rod Serling reincarnated, then definitely the heir apparent to Rod
Right.
Serling.
Right,
If
right.
someone's going to take the mantle
Yeah,
of that kind of storytelling.
but I took a look, and I'm really looking forward to that when to Wendell and Wild. So
Yeah, it looks
maybe should.
phenomenal.
So um, I guess we should come up with some closing lines here.
Um, I think these are both masterpieces of animation, especially stop motion. I think you can praise Tim Burton as much as you want because he is a gifted director. He did come up with the idea, but not counting what Danny Elfman brought to the Nightmare Before Christmas, it's a lot of Henry Selick, and you can see that in Coraline. That this guy is a gifted director. He's a gifted animator, and I'm glad we got one more movie coming from him.
I agree. Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas. It is a good movie. When Henry Selick got involved with Laika, and basically kicked off their start inaugural feature, that was when they really started pushing the game, and I think um, film, not just animation, film is all the better for it.
I agree, and I'm glad that we have a studio like Lakia out there to kind of give Pixar a run for its money on quality animation.
Yeah, I mean I'm it was awesome when Pixar was kind of knocking it out of the park over and over and over again, but I think having them do that forced a lot of other animation studios to start stepping up their game.
Well, come on, DreamWorks and Illumination, step up your game.
Well, okay, but I say the Kung Fu Panda movies were actually legitimately good.
Oh,
Uh,
DreamWorks does occasionally do really good movies, but they also kind of just sometimes just, do like some fart jokes and stuff.
yeah. Although speaking of DreamWorks Animation, another movie we need to talk about eventually, Prince of Egypt. Like I slept on that movie and I kicked myself, and now it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Uh, it might be one of their best, if not their best film.
Yeah. But that's gonna have to be a rant for another time. Anything you got to say on your end, Chris or Lindsay?
Well, Lindsay's not here. She had to step out, but I think they are both brilliant films. I love them very dearly. I highly recommend them. I still, as an adult, without the nostalgia glasses, I still recommend Coraline over Nightmare. But um, both equally as great. I love the animation. and yeah, I mean they're fun. They're both really fun movies.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
And
And
all
right,
right,
good time to watch them too this time of year.
I,
exactly,
I definitely have Coraline on DVD,
right.
and I have
And
access to Disney Plus, so I'm covered.
and these, if you have a family or you have kids like Chris, these are good ones to show for like, especially, well, both of them actually, because they're not really spooky, but there's enough spooky element in it that it doesn't feel like you're watching like what kids would say, oh, this is a baby movie, like
Right.
no.
No, yeah,
It's
I'd say Coraline is pretty creepy.
mm-hmm.
Like, um, Gaiman can write creepy for children and for adults.
Yep. I mean, you got creepy ghost kids.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
what are we doing? Are you doing anything Saturday, Cody?
Yeah, if the guest is able to record this time, because I guess we are living in the plot of this Coen Brothers movie, because I was sick the first time we were supposed to talk about it, and then he was sick the next time we were supposed to talk about it. So we're doing a double feature, a weird double feature, a Serious Man and Alien Covenant.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Well, hopefully it works out. Again, I work unless you're doing it at night or in the evening, but I probably won't make it. Hopefully it turns out to be a cool conversation. So um, now Kevin is going to be on next week, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be Wednesday or not. I have to see what day he can record. But yeah, we plan to do the episode we were supposed to do this week because Halloween Ends comes out tonight. So we were going to talk Season of the
Yes.
Witch, and
Yeah.
we were going to keep the Nightmare on Elm Street going with Dream Warriors. Kevin said that was his favorite in the series.
I could kind of
So
see that because I mean, I just took a look at it. Just let's say Monday, either Monday or Tuesday. So, I forgot Lawrence Fishburne was in this one.
Lawrence Fishburne and Patricia Arquette, and a guy that kind of looks like Bill Maher, but that's not who it is.
No, it's not. I thought I had that I thought that same thing too. Um, and also how it really starts giving a backstory for Freddy Krueger, and not just he's a random child murderer that adults kind of did a lynch mob on.
Yeah, it creates the lore of the franchises Adam kept talking about last week with our Elm Street Hellraiser episode, but it also kind of started the whole Freddy's got jokes when he murders you too.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was more. I think Robert Englund started having a lot more fun around Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yeah, they started going the campy route.
Yeah, but I think it was the right amount in 3.
Yeah.
Plus, Frank Darabont wrote the screenplay.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of mileage to talk about in this movie. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone on the internet, keep your browsers open for this. So
Yeah. Thanks for joining us another week for our tens of listeners, and guys, thank you for jumping on. I know we all have busy schedules, and
Well, thank you both for being able to be like, yeah, let's squeeze these in,
I'm always down.
right at the last minute.
Okay.
But like, I think, I don't know, maybe we've seen one of these or both of these enough times. I mean, I ended up watching both of them, but like I said, I could have probably been okay if I hadn't watched A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right.
all right. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for coming on, and if you can, on Cody, Saturday at whatever time they're going to jump on. And join us next Wednesday for, let's see. Okay, so we're just going to reschedule Kevin's for next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. I'll touch back with him probably this weekend, see how he's feeling, see what day works best, let y'all know what day next week.
And then around the 25th, I think, or the 20th, somewhere around there, the week after next, we're going to be doing Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, the two early 90s versions with someone. So
the Robert De Niro version?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I'm the monster.
Yeah. All right.
That's a terrible De Niro.
And I would be there on Saturday, but I am going to the State Fair once again. G and I are bringing a friend, and we are going to go see Fits in the Tantrums.
Nice. Oh, cool. Yeah, you posted that they were going to be there. Let us know how that was.
I am very much looking forward to it. They have an incredible live stage presence, so I'll say I think we said way too many long goodbyes, so I guess it's time to sign off.
This is not Return of the King with 10 goodbyes, so we'll go ahead and end it. Thanks, guys, again. Nick, Cody, you guys have a good rest of the week. May your weekends get here ever sooner.
Mine's already here. Because I'm off Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay.
I have one more day because this has been the longest 4-day week I have ever.
4 days.
Oh, you had school off on Monday?
Yes, I had school off on Monday and that past Friday.
That's right, because you went out of town.
Yeah, and we had PSAT testing for our 9th through 11th graders, and that was a thing.
Nice.
All
right, guys. Well,
everybody, you have a good weekend. Nick, you have a good weekend. People out there watching have a good weekend. And
Indeed.
Hey, comment here on YouTube or on the Facebook page. What are you watching for this spooky season?
Yeah, tell us your movies.
Yeah, we definitely love to know. So.
Yeah.
And look out for me popping up on Lisa's show. We recorded an episode about Scream, and I may have been more sweaty about Scream than I was about RoboCop, which kind of surprises me.
Oh.
and no spoilers for Halloween, please, because I probably will not watch it until Sunday. Man, we have got to get our Halloween show in this season, Cody.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it at some point? Is that what you're saying, or just a Halloween special?
I would like to talk about it. I would like to talk about the 3 Halloween movies that have come out in the last, since 2018?
Well, we did the other 2 last year.
Yeah, we did them, but I would like to do a little review and then recap the new one. So we may have to squeeze that in. I'm pretty anxious to talk about that.
Okay. Well, I heard he's gonna be a silver shamrock robot.
Oh God!
Oh no!
No, I don't know that. I'm just being facetious.
The rumors, the rumor trolls. Anyway.
All right, let's cut it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.